Welcome back to the Best Ball Boardroom. Best Ball Boardroom. Today's boardroom meeting is a full house with we've got three guests joining us today. We know you've all have a busy day of meetings, TPS reports, and we ourselves have a jam-packed agenda. So we're headlined today, but one of the up-and-coming startups in this industry. It is no better time than a corporation like us. Maybe we're considering acquisitions, whether it's research, whether it's just looking at the innovative firms that are out there that are leading this space. I think we've got a great example here. I'm going to leave it to our partners of Underdog. They're going to do the introduction this time.
Underdog Fantasy has brought in the names like Steve Smith Sr.
What is that play?
Josh McCown.
But it shows me maturity.
Rasheed Wallace.
Welcome to Rasheed Wallace World.
Gilbert Arenas and others.
So we're going to start with the Orlando Magic. No.
Welcomes to their star-studded lineup.
Good afternoon.
We never had gumbo.
The Badge Bros? Is this right? See you there.
Badge Bros? We couldn't even get a football graphic to go with it. We're still stuck on baseball. What is going on? Badge Bros, welcome.
Justin, thanks for having us, man. I think as we get into this corporate theme, we have the baseball, we wear different hats in the corporate setting. We got the baseball hat. Sometimes we got to do the football stuff. Like today, we've been going hard. Grind doesn't stop no matter what the sport is for us.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. I appreciate you for having us on here. This is gonna be really fun. Obviously, I don't have the full on the coats like the lads here. We gotta have an intern of the group, so I'll be holding that down for the bunch. But
Numi the intern has a nice ring to it. I'm about it.
I think it works. He's got to graduate to getting a jacket, but I mean,
he's still got the college hair too. He's got the college flow.
Exactly, right?
yeah. Normally a hat's covering up this lettuce, but we let it flow today. So
I like it. I mean, normally in the boardroom, we obviously have the suits, but we can't ignore our bro background. So we have three Badge Bros here, but three not enough hats in it. That's okay. We know you guys are going to be bringing the hot takes and everything to go with it, but we'll be jumping into draft soon. But I want to hear from you all. How's the summer been going? What is the feel right now for? I know you guys are busy with obviously baseball, golf, but a lot of it is, it's best ball season. What's going on?
We've been crushing drafts on stream. It's been mostly like John doing some BBMs, but we've been in the poodle streets, making sure we get our 20 max in with the poodle. I've been slowly chipping away at BBM, kind of taking a nice slow burn with the current landscape, even though there are some big time ADP values that are there to be had. Who knows how long it'll last, but it's been good. It feels like right now it's just the RBs at these current prices are just screaming values that every draft of mine right now has been, a 4 or 5 RB, unless I'm going crazy and doing 8 on stream or something. It feels hard to pass up some of these RB values sitting in the 4th and 5th sometimes.
Yeah, John Numi, I know we've been doing some of these time box contests. We had the poodle, which really filled in it feels like 2-3 days. How have you all can kind of play, and have you been going deep into those ones that have already closed, or is it kind of just feeling it all out?
I think it's attacking two different animals, right? Because I'm doing a bunch of the slows that are BBMs right now, and then I have 15 poodle slows on the go right now, and I think I'm drafting them completely different right now for whatever reason, because I'm treating BBM as an entirety of the summer. I call this window of drafting in the BBM as the IKB window, right? Shout out to the CEO, but it just this window of time is getting hyper exploitative in certain spots. But then when I'm drafting the poodle stuff, knowing that the draft window is going to close in 5 days, I'm kind of sticking less looking for closing line value and just kind of sticking to my basic principles there. So it's a tough balancing act, this window of drafting in particular. And then you also throw the caveat of these multiple contests on it. It's a tough road to navigate, but it's a lot of fun to do so.
Intern Numi, have you been passing off research sheets to your superiors? Have you been letting you kind of play as well? How does that feel?
Yeah, no, I'm on the same boat right now with the poodles. As I had a busy weekend and all of a sudden looked and it was 90% full. So I went, let me get a couple live drafts in. Next thing you know, I'd multi-table 2. And I'm like, oh, got a slow 18 because it's full. So, but for the same sake of BBM, I treat that. I'm not going to be out there probably maxing it just because I put my bankroll and other features, like we said, golf and MLB. But these smaller contests are right up my alley, especially 20 max. And that's I treat it the same way as they're different contests. So I'm out there just kind of like IKBing it a little bit, and not really worrying about getting the ADP value that's going to close because this contest is already closed in 2 days. So
yeah. Oh, couple of that. All right, time to jump into one of these drafts. I'll get it going behind the scenes from you all. I want to hear. I love the idea of these new contests coming up that are specially time boxed, but like if you come together, put the meeting of the minds, what would be the ideal tournament that you would launch for, let's say, the next week?
I think you start with making it fast only. I love that you were able to do fast and slows to get a piece of this tournament, but it feels so fast. And if they gave us the data, I would bet well over half of those lobbies that have filled for the Poodle were slow drafts. So I would probably start with making them fast only. What kind of qualities would you add next?
Well, you guys know how I like the low volume and I like the high price point. I would love to see something that is, maybe between the Dalmatian and the Bulldog, maybe like a 200, a 250, and it's fast only single bullet. Like, I just love that.
The Greyhound.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I was just gonna say. Was make it a style between what we have in the Bulldog and the Dalmatian, but make it a fast. And I'm always attracted to 3 max. I don't know what it is, but make it a 3 max style, whether it be 100, 150, 200 to make it offset the other contests out there. But I like the idea of fast basically, and I love having the slow only option. Don't get me wrong, but I like to be going on a walk, doing something, a cardio club type thing while I'm drafting. So a slow draft doesn't really get me there. So yeah, I hope the next one is the same point that you said, just fast. So
yeah, and I think it makes sense. I mean, if we're going to do one of these time box contests, and what we mean by that is like, hey, when it launches, we have a general idea that the ADP is going to be in this, like, let's say week, and then it's going to fill. Versus BBM, we've got 3-4 months that you can kind of potentially be drafting in. I do think it is important to say, you know what, this is only going to be a fast draft. Because when you take a look at that Poodle, it lasted for, I think it was like, what 3 days, maybe 4 days at most?
It was like 2.5.
Less than 72 hours.
Okay, perfect. And so the idea being like, hey, this is a contest that is that snapshot in time, I think is awesome. Yeah. But then when you then have these slow drafts that are going to be going on for 3 weeks a month, we now have like a substantial, I'm confident to say it's it's not the same and a lack of equity, but I also think it's unfair. There is edge to be gained. Maybe unfair is not the right word because you can obviously this is open for everyone, but sure, there is an edge gained by drafting later on, just from an information standpoint. If we really want to make we are on the clock. I know we've done very few drafts. Is there any reason not to go Kelsey here? We'll start off with that.
I think you can make cases if you like Kyle Pitts ADP right now. I think he's like a really nice like elite tight end one that sits in like the 5th and 6th round. But Kelsey, otherwise, I think is just so nice, and you don't have to stack him, but if you want to push it, you can. And that week 17 matchup is just so pristine. I think he's good where he is going. Don't get me wrong.
So I think that's just an interesting, more larger macro conversation. Is we are in round 1. It is pick 6, and you are considering making or not making a draft pick based off a player in the 5th, 6th round. Mm-hmm. Is that normal? Are you normally thinking like, changing your early ownership, your portfolio based off a player you really like at this point in time?
Me personally, yes. And it kind of centers around right now, big time around it did early on. It was around Lamar Jackson. Getting Lamar, getting Mark Andrews, and then getting Rashad Bateman when he was going in the hundreds. Now, for me, that player and that team is the Los Angeles Chargers. With the quarterbacks going so early right now, I don't know if anybody would be surprised if Justin Herbert put up the QB1 score in any given week. And, that's kind of how you have to look at these as opposed to just, you can substitute that for saying week 17. But who would be surprised if Justin Herbert is the QB1? And on top of that, he is very stackable like throughout the draft, with Quentin Johnson, the high draft capital pick going there to the Chargers. Our favorite boy, our favorite 18th round, Josh Palmer, being available for Herbert as well. He has the Broncos week 17, which in my opinion, I think we can expect the Broncos to be a much better offense than they were last year. Clearly some growing pains, some coaching issues. They bring in Sean Payton, they add Marvin Mims. I think another year in that system, like the Broncos can actually put up a fight. And that should be a fun matchup in week 17. So that's where I've been like looking at, is like basically saying, I don't want these elite QBs. I'll take Justin Herbert a couple rounds later.
All right, so I'm going to follow up on that. Specifically with this Travis Kelsey example, you brought up the idea of Pitt. Look at Pitt's ADP. We're talking 64 right now. If we were then to say, okay, in our draft, if we wanted him at 64, are you in this one saying, hey, maybe we get him and he falls at 67? You like him so much, you want to get him at 54 and based around that? Or is it more just, no, I'm only basing off Travis Kelsey, not where in the draft I am? Because I think with the Chargers, this conversation still applies usually in the later end of the first round if you're picking.
I typically don't really do two elites with Kelsey. First round.
Sorry, let me pause. Instead of grabbing Kelsey, you're talking about the Pitts aspect.
Yeah.
If we're not drafting Kelsey here, are you then saying, but I want to get Pitts in 57, 50?
I want Pitts in like almost all my drafts right now. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm to me, where he's going is just like, and you think about what he can potentially give you on a given week. I think that offense is going to be improved in Atlanta. I'm willing to bet that Pitts is not a bad prospect. I don't think that there's any way that everybody has been this wrong on him as a player, given his third year in the league. The volume has been there, but with the injuries there, kind of results. I'm into it.
All right.
Yeah, this is a fun little debate here.
I'm throwing some things in the queue. I think all of these are in consideration. Someone who feels strong is let us know what we're doing.
I like Saquon.
I like Saquon.
I know it's kind of hard right now to get the Mahomes Kelsey. I think it's going to get easier as the quarterbacks start to fall. I think the market's going to correct on second round quarterbacks a little bit, and Kelsey plus Mahomes, like combinatorially, is going to be like, I would guess in the 20 percentile range for the remainder of like BBM. I think it's going to be as high as like 18. We've been tracking some of like the drafts right now, and I think we have like 2% of the entirety of drafts tracked right now, and it's more readily available than I think. I think Saquon is going to be kind of an end of round 2 guy for sure. I think there's a little uncertainty, a little FUD around him right now, but I think when franchise tag stuff gets squared away, he's fully committed to playing this year with them, or they give him a new contract. I think start of round 2, end of round 1 for Saquon. So I like trying to get a little closing line value there.
Right. So you're thinking here as a closing line value in two directions. One, you're thinking Saquon moves up. So one, maybe we're getting a unique combination with Kelsey and Saquon that you can't get later. And then also you're talking Kelsey and Mahomes, two aspects there. You think Mahomes moves down, and you think Mahomes and Kelsey ends up being popular, so we're losing value there. I will push back on the Mahomes aspect because they play Cincinnati. I'm not expecting Mahomes to really ever fall past these people who are grabbing Chase or Higgins. And I think enough people are still going to be taking the Kelsey Mahomes. So I think of the 3 QBs, he's probably most likely from just a, overall week 17, as well as kind of, stack aspect to stay there. But I get the idea that, QBs are going to start falling. I'm open to the idea, and I'm good with Barkley here. I think Barkley is just a tier above these other running backs.
Yeah, and if you want to look ahead too, if people think that, I believe he gets the Rams week 17, and if people think the Rams are going to be as poor of a team as we kind of project, that could be Barkley's. He could feast. So it's just that contract situation is weird, though. I will say. Yeah,
we did kind of put ourselves in a little position here where, like, by taking Barkley there, the round 3 right now is like so running back value heavy that it's hard to thrust Debo over this tier. So now we're kind of starting 2 running backs and tight end, and this is probably going to end up being like a 5 running back build.
I agree with you, but I think the other one was Mahomes. We were still going to be in that same situation of either 2 running backs and a tight end or 2 running backs and a QB. We were kind of in no man's spot where like it would have been a bit of a reach to grab one of those wide receivers, like just drafting Higgins directly over your Mahomes stack or your Barkley. It feels tough. But yeah, I mean,
I think Higgins, the one thing that's interesting about Higgins Herzig is I think that's going to be there all summer. I think like Higgins is going to be like, if Mahomes gets a little steam, if Barkley gets a little steam, I think Kelsey plus Higgins is basically going to be readily available in almost every room, right?
Yes. Yeah. No one's expecting Higgins to move up substantially more. I think like you're going to see more of the Chase and Higgins. So it just kind of stay in that area. But yeah, no, I'm in agreement. Like maybe you could see a situation where you grab, I think it's really interesting where we talk about this more in playoff best ball, just because I don't know, shorter season, it's more based off how your team advances, but like,
right,
you want to go crazy. What if you went Kelsey number 1 because you're trying to think like, okay, I want to get that T Higgins and Mahomes stack or something?
Yeah,
it's way too risky now because Mahomes isn't falling enough. But if Mahomes starts turning into an end of the second or early third, like I could see maybe just to be unique for that tournament, you go Kelsey with the 2nd or 3rd overall, then you're able to get Mahomes and Higgins. I think that might be a bit more unique than like what we're thinking, because otherwise you're not getting both at this. What is that? Pick 19 and 30 for.
And we saw what you're describing in one of our streams. We saw an AJ Brown go 101, Hurts fell, and he got Devontae Smith. So you are
and you're burying the lead there, Nez. The guy's screen name was ETR sub.
Of course. Yeah.
It was pretty hilarious. It was pretty hilarious. And then we did it the same way where who'd we take 101 in the draft where we took, I think it was Jefferson 101. And then we pushed up Lamar and Andrews.
Yeah.
Did the 2-3 with Lamar Andrews there. A little bit thinner than trying to attempt the other one, depending on your views on Lamar and Andrews. But like, it's kind of the only way you can get them stacked together in this window of time, because they basically always go in the 2-3 there. Although we do see it from the 4 hole here, but pushing up.
You have to be intentional about it, more or less. You know,
yeah, that's.
I rarely see it 3 or 4. It's usually 2 and 3.
Yeah. And this is how we found out Justin's burner, ETR sub.
Yeah, exactly.
Terms of service going to be on you.
Yeah.
It's funny because like playoff best ball, you can 100% start doing this stuff. Like you start taking these crazy number 1 because you know you're going to get a unique structure. I don't like it as much. You're just giving up a lot of value going like AJ Brown over Justin Jefferson 101. But come August, September, if these ADPs stay very similar and now you know you can get a unique one that way that no one else has been getting, I'm more willing then. It's too early in the season. Or if we're doing one of those time box ones, you did a poodle, no one else is going to be finishing with that.
Yeah.
That's a good
yes,
point.
you're giving up some edge. Like, I'm okay with it because that's a really unique and highly correlated team.
Yeah, that's smart. The time box aspect of it, I hadn't even thought about it in that lens.
We need wide receivers.
Yeah, we get this sweet pocket of running back value fall to us, and we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, Pittman goes with the 17. I'm not saying we draft him. I'm just putting these in here. There's no Cincy. There's no LAR. I probably would go.
I
like
Hopkins.
What do you guys want?
Yeah, let's do it. Yep.
John loves Hopkins.
I love Hopkins, but
talk to me about Hopkins.
I just see multiple outs, and I'm a Kyler guy, and I'm a Kyler's undervalued guy right now, and I'm a take 2 quarterbacks and bite the bullet 10 picks early on Kyler for your second quarterback. I've been doing a lot of that set at like kind of shoot the moon. And then I just think it's a really cheap elite stack that would normally be like 4-5 round. And if you just take a little bit of, I just think there's paths to first place with extreme outliers like that. And this sets it up. But the taking Judy would have been kind of nice too, because you can set up a cheeky, Chargers one without Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, which not many people are ever even attempting. It's so thin too. I just like these really thin paths to first place is kind of what I think through.
That's fair. And so I think the Hopkins ones kind of make sense here versus Judy, because if I'm grabbing Judy, like we know what that matchup Denver LAC is, we're not going to get Mike Williams. We're not going to get Keenan Allen. We could go for kind of a Sutton Russ later on because we know we're going to need wide receivers. But like you're not getting much on the other side of the game. Hopkins, maybe we get lucky and he falls into some form of a stack with the rest of our players. And yeah, I mean, like I think there's a decent chance. I'm on the bet that it's more likely that Hopkins underperforms his ADP than overperforms, but it is in the range of outcomes with the right landing spot that he could still be like a top 5 or so wide receiver, which very unlikely the other wide receivers we were considering.
Yeah, I like that. I like that thought just in terms of like multiple paths where he can get moved and get.
Yeah.
Are we doing it?
This is a pretty big fall. And I don't think it's bad since we have Kelsey. Like, I think Kelsey kind of justifies it.
We're going to be so weak at wide receiver.
We will, but I think here I am pro Burrow, and here's something that I think we should do as people that are online and really buried into best ball. I think we have kind of like a better eye for identifying wide receiver talent than maybe we give ourselves credit for. And like putting yourselves in these positions where, yeah, we know historically like King Cap's lineup had high wide receiver capital dedicated to it, and so did Karane's. But if we like just put ourselves in uncomfortable positions where we are forced to take like 9 or 10 wide receivers in a position like this, I don't think that it's as bad as like we all perceive it to be because we just choose not to do it so much. Does that make sense, or do we not do it because we're smart?
I hear you. I think that logic made a ton of sense 2 years ago, a decent amount of sense last year, but I think that argument just becomes more and more difficult as more wide receivers get moved up.
Sure.
Because what you're saying makes complete sense. And we used to be able to find those, in my opinion, in the 9th, 10th, and 11th round. Now it feels like once you get past ADP 90, like it is just a dead zone. And we're going to have to lean into that dead zone this draft and hope we get a little lucky.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think now we kind of talk more, maybe this is 4 running backs potentially because we need so much capital dedicated to the wide receivers, or we get some values that, okay, now we can actually, just something to kind of think ahead about, because with Saquon and Jacobs, I mean, those are great values and obviously like really big bets.
I'm pretty leaning, like I'd be leaning strongly here at a 2.592.
Okay.
I think most data shows that grabbing that 10th wide receiver is never worth it. Like it's more important to kind of grab that 5th running back. Yeah. And because we have Burrow and Kelsey, those are both strong enough to leave us with just one other at each position. And so tight end, we can obviously wait to the very end. While quarterback, we'll try to find either an ADP value, a stack partner. And then there's that decent like dead zone when you just don't love any of the wide receivers that we can find someone. But yeah, I don't hate a 2.592, but again, we need to spend a lot of these next picks on wide receiver and ignore any running back value that falls.
100%.
What do you like? Because what do your guys' minds go with? Because my mind goes right now that like, hey, we took Burrow there. I know we got that 17 correlation. My mind instantly goes to we push Tyler Boyd up a little bit and play him as a contingency play off of like, one of the other guys missing some games, or he's the guy you need in week 17, whatever our mindset is there. Do you guys think similarly? Like, would you be like structurally looking to reach, 8-10 picks on Tyler Boyd in this build?
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. And I think Irv as our tight end too also is fair.
Overclock here. Herzig.
JSN seems like nice ADP fall. And we're going to need some of those guys because
he's the
JSN's actually a perfect fit for this team in my mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot of wide receivers, which means we're going to be grabbing wide receivers later on that we like, who are projecting well at the beginning of the season. Because that's easier to project with the old veterans, the ones whose roles are going to decline as the season goes on. And that allows JSN to come on at the end of the season and really put these together. Plus, a lot of Pittsburgh guys that we can grab later on to get that mini stack.
Yeah,
I like that.
I'm with that 100%.
What do you guys think in terms of making the bet on this roster? I think Addison went first. Yeah, Addison went first already. What do you guys think in that JSN versus Addison bet? Like, who would you guys rather have?
Coming from
the resident Vikings fan, I don't think you're going to get a non-biased answer out of me, but I think Addison absorbs Thielen's role and I think he steps in there right away.
Yeah.
And
easier
not that,
path,
not
right?
that JSN can't. It's just having DK, and I'm gonna go on. I mean, I don't know where you guys stand, but I mean, Tyler Lockett is good at football, whether people want to say he's old or whatever. So I mean, it's just he has 2 to overcome versus, I get it, the megastar Jefferson, but when there's times that they take him out, like he's going to just be wide open in certain aspects, and he's just going to be on the field. I'm pretty sure right out of the gate, I was listening to O'Connell, and he's going to be on the field for 2 wide receiver sets, is what we want. So he's not just a slot guy coming in there. Like, he's going to be out wide. He can play anywhere ever. So give me Addison.
I'm with you.
Like
and Hayden just tweeted out, I mean, this is like not like deep dive, but I mean, just Thielen obviously gone. He ran the 2nd most routes last year behind Justin Jefferson, and he's out. And they spent this draft capital on Jordan Addison. Hawkinson is there, and I think Hawkinson, like, yeah, he's going early, but I think that's warranted. I think Hawkinson is a really nice pick this year. But I mean, I'm not really worried about KJ Osborne as opposed to JSN worrying about Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's a good, and it's, I mean, KJ, sure, maybe at the beginning of the season you see KJ step in and for the first couple, and it's basically, I mean, the first couple games Justin Jefferson was non-existent and wasn't getting it, so in his career, so maybe it takes a little bit for Addison to get going, but it's all that coupled with the less path, or just a greater path for targets.
Ooh, that's fun.
You don't got to twist my arm on this, Milo.
Yeah, likewise.
Plus, like, we
Especially-
just got that mini correlation with the
Exactly.
JSN and Deontay position of need.
Oh, yeah.
This one just feels too easy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Come on. See, the board just
Slam
falling in our
dunk.
lap right now.
And then, hey, it was obviously just a comment, but like, when we drafted JSN, we're like, hey, there are lots of Pittsburgh guys. And yes, probably didn't expect Deontay to actually fall to us when I think that's an ADP fall of, what do we see? Deontay is at only a couple picks, but still worked out. But even if we missed out on him, you still have a couple other options. You got the Freiermuth if you wanted to reach a little on tight end.
Justin, what are your thoughts on like that, the Freiermuth call in particular? What is your thoughts when you go with this elite tight end build? Let's call it, the top five in the first 5 rounds, something like that. What is your thought process in terms of pairing a second tight end who is then kind of like 10 through 15 in terms of like ADP? Is it wasted capital for us to be doing stuff like that?
All right. So I have a half-baked thought that I've been trying to work with around these elite tight ends. And it's, it stems from someone who's asking, like, do you ever want to go just solo elite tight end? And there's a lot of reasons why you don't. The data shows it hurts advance rate from the playoffs. You also need that player to have such a great regular season that they're a good, that they bring you forward. And then in the playoffs, they need to be doing well to continue to keep advancing you. In general, that player has a great season, and now you're hurt because week 17, they're highly owned. Do we then actually want to increase our chances of, in the season that those have bad seasons or mess seasons? George Kittle would be the good example from Crane's team last year. You've got this great tight end who has that potential, but his value came from being low owned in the playoffs, or an example would be being low owned in week 17. So when I draft someone like a Travis Kelsey, if I do that on like a DraftKings where there's 20 rounds, I'm considering actually like just spending like, 19th and 20th round capital on rookie or high upside tight ends, but taking 2 of them, because I actually maybe don't want Kelsey to have this amazing year. Maybe I want him to have kind of a bad year. But my 2, I then hit on this later tight end in round 19 or 20. Then come playoffs, Kelsey has that big week at a low ownership. Obviously, this is such kind of a if this, then that, and like the game theory aspect. But for these tournaments and the ways we're playing for the upside, like that's what I've been tinkering with. So to your question, 18 picks with underdog, it's just too much to go Kelsey and then 2 other tight ends. But maybe I'm okay with going Kelsey and another tight end that like I think has enough upside to maybe carry me through if Kelsey doesn't have that great of a season.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think it's a little bit like you're You kind of pushed a little bit of the movement last year with the handcuffing of running backs, and we saw it come to fruition in Cranes. But I think the thesis is the exact same, where it's like, this running back is what pushes you through, and then maybe it's injury, maybe it's opportunity, maybe it's rookie getting a second chance or getting a first chance later in the season. It gives you that unique piece, but leverage off of the piece that most people won't have both, right?
Yeah, no, I like it. Okay, I'm looking at our pick now. I think it's still a little early for Boyd. We have pick 102. We could consider it then, or he's right at our ADP at 115. We consider that too. Probably still need to go wide receivers. In my mind, we've hit that dead zone. Anybody have a preference here on a wide receiver we want to throw in?
I like Bateman here. Bateman,
I was just
or
about to
Cortland
say the
Sutton.
same.
Sutton works for there's two divisional matchups with Kelsey, but for me, it's Bateman.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
So my thoughts on Bateman are, from an ETR standpoint, from projections, it's pretty hard to actually project him that well, or at least compared to the guys around him, because even with Todd Monken, even with the new passing options, like, we're just not expecting Lamar's passing totals to randomly just spike up by 100, 200. And that's what, he needs at least 100 to really even be in line with most of the other QBs. But I do believe that there's a chance for one of those wide receivers, maybe it's Bateman, maybe it's Flowers, to actually become an alpha in that, alongside Mark Andrews. Yeah, I'm not going to say Odell. And so that's where, like, projections wise, even ETR ranks, like, he is lower than those others. But from a best ball mindset, I am willing to kind of take more chances on him, because I think his range of outcomes, a lot of it is because it's a new offense. We've seen how efficient they are, but also we just haven't really seen him on the field that much to know what his true potential is. I'm willing to take some dart throws on him.
Yeah.
I like that.
Here's a very simple point here. Spike week waiting to happen. Yeah. Spike season also possible.
Yeah, and that exactly was my thought with that. And to your point, as you're talking about Sutton and pairing them just for an interdivisional matchup, we got Bateman with our full-on stack with our quarterback right now. So I know it's not a week 17, but you're at least taking you're getting 2 weeks of correlation out of that same thought that you had with Sutton. So
good point.
Little advanced rates.
I like that. There's kind of no reason in my mind why he can't just fill that Marquise Brown role, like, that's just been vacant, right? Like, they need someone they kind of used Devin Duvernay last year in terms of, like, the go route guy. Like, why can't Bateman be the volume plus the go route guy, right? And just, he plays the perimeter, and then you have JSN to play the slot, and then obviously Andrews as, like, other side slot and, like, safety valve kind of option. I just kind of like the potential in its discount Gabe Davis if they throw a little more. Yeah.
No,
little bit of film grinding take. I do think too, like, when Bateman got hurt, he only played a few games, right? But when he got hurt, that offense really was never the same. Like, Lamar did not have many great weeks when Bateman was not on the field. All of his biggest weeks came when Bateman was healthy. So I do think that there's something there. It's just an element of what he brings to the offense. I just think he was a really good prospect coming out. I still think he's a good receiver. We just need to see him healthy, man.
Yeah, no, I think that's all completely fair. What do we think about Daniel Jones as our second QB here? We've got Barkley. We want to go with only 2 QBs. If you don't draft Daniel Jones here, we could go Geno. But then we'd be going the Boyd, so we'd be going Boyd here. So it's either like Daniel Jones and Boyd or Geno and Boyd.
Daniel Jones does leave outs. Yeah, he does leave a lot of outs, and when we already have Barkley too. So
yeah, I like the Daniel Jones here. I think for me, once we knew we were only going 2 QBs, I was kind of targeting this area where there is that big drop off on wide receivers to grab that second QB. You could have made an argument that, like, hey, we should have gone Tyler Boyd, because then we would have had 2 outs to get the stack QB of Geno or Daniel Jones. But, like, also, I think most likely they both would have gone.
We got the fallback on Irv Smith too.
I don't think people are going to take a naked Tyler Boyd. I think Tyler Boyd is, like, if we look at Chad's data in our Discord, I'm probably about to jinx the hell out of this, but I really don't think that, like, Boyd goes without Burrow often.
Well, and not only Burrow, also it is on, I'm probably doing this backwards with the camera, this side of the draft,
Right.
where on the back end, you don't have Chase and Higgins and these other Bengals that people might want to stack with. I'm not quite sure what Mixon's right in the middle. So I guess the icon could go with a weird one there. But like, if you were going this way, I could see, okay, someone wants to, maybe they grabbed Mahomes here, and they want to grab Tyler Boyd for that bring back. They grab Chase or Higgins, and they want to grab Boyd as well for that kind of wide receiver cuff. I could see that, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I forgot we had Jason. Yeah, that would have been nice too for Gino. Sorry, go ahead, John.
Oh, true. Yeah. I think Daniel Jones, just like in a vacuum, is like low-key undervalued, especially on like the scoring of this site, where like his rushing floor is way higher than people give credit, and his ability to score touchdowns on the ground comparative to like a bunch of the other quarterbacks in the same range. Like, I don't know. I'll take discount Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson right now at his current ADP. Like, give me those 30 picks of value, and just like, I mean, maybe it's not a fair 1v1 comp. Like, I'd rather take some swings on the ceiling of Richardson, but like, I just love Daniel Jones's price tag for right now. And we just saw it last year, right? Yeah. Like, touchdowns are so important on this site. And he has the ability to score 5 to 10 on the ground, right?
Yep. And do you say, like, we saw it last year? It's not like, oh, just something, he just randomly had a good year. Like, that's clear it's the coach, and that's clear it's stable. Like, this is a different offense. This is a different coaching scheme. And now they've actually built an entire, like, how many wide receivers they bring in for him this year? Obviously brought Slayton and Shepard back and Hodgins back, but then they brought in Paris Campbell. They have a healthy Wan'Dale Jones. They drafted Jalen Hyatt. They brought in Evan Ingram. Like, I don't have that many more fingers. This is
the icon.
Icon.
I know. And I'm sure he's listening to, and he wouldn't have done it if I didn't mention it. I thought of it after I said it. He was like, "Oh, that is a good stack. I do need a wide receiver."
Oh.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Mooney, Mingo. I'm just throwing some stuff out here. This actually is decent running back. Let's grab AJ Dillon.
Okay. I think best player available at this point. Nice discount on him. Oof.
Yeah, that would feel really bad to take Sky Moore over AJ Dillon just because of like some thin week 17. Like, move him up 40 picks.
I mean, the only way Sky Moore's relevant in week 17 is if he steals Kadarius Toney's plays again.
Right. Yeah. Literally the Super Bowl mirror play on the other side again. and we know Justin Watson's going to be running those routes this year. So, you know,
I am okay with taking Chiefs. I don't want to call them dart throws, but like, I don't know. They're pretty heavy dart throws. If I have Mahomes, gosh, it feels ugly to grab one of those dart throws just for a week 17 bring back. And we already have Kelsey for that reason. He's obviously going to get the 2 touchdowns and maybe even a rushing touchdown. Yeah.
Hey, Justin, can you do me a favor right quick? Can you bring up Chad's comment in the chat, the most recent one there? Yeah. Yo, shout out to our guy Chad here. He's just a quick plug for anyone who doesn't know. In the Deposit Kingdom Discord, within that, the show notes threads, there's a Badge Bros channel, and that's where all the football conversation. Then there's sub threads to some of the other sports for like daily contests and whatnot. But Chad has put together a combinatorial ownership sheet based on all of us sharing only our BBM boards, and it's about 2% sample. And then he does stuff like this on the fly for us, sharing in our chat while we're streaming. Hey, these are what our combinations currently have right now. Just in terms of ownership. So just very cool stuff, and very appreciative of Chad doing that. So I wanted to give him some flowers there.
Here's another example. You got for this stack. Here was another one from his earlier on. And I mean, I think like, so there's multiple ways to go about this. You know, Spike Week does their stuff where they come up with like a projected ownership based off them like saying this order. I'm a little weary of that. Then you have what Chad's been doing. And on Chad's side, like, it's small sample size, is only 151. Obviously, there's some bias there, but it's still directionally accurate. So I think both those have like a directional accuracy aspect, but all I'm saying is both of them don't take as the holy grail, but they're still, both those methodologies are helpful in getting an idea on current ADP, what that kind of combinatorial ownership looks like.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's like something that's an evergreen grain of salt there with everything, because like you did the daily stuff with us last year and built the ADP model on the fly in Excel right there for us to kind of like guess projected ownership, and like just such a great exercise to think through. But just like so much of this historical data and whatnot, everything's just grain of salt, right? There's a caveat to everything.
Yeah. All right. We are probably going to need some more wide receivers. I'm just going to start throwing some of our potential stack partners in the queue for us to keep an eye on. It's ugly. It's
And
ugly.
Everyone loves Nico Collins. Like Crane's got him pretty high in the rankings. ETR's got him pretty high in the rankings. There's just a collective love fest for Nico Collins to some extent this year.
I can go into my thoughts on that, but is there any other player we think? Do we want to grab Gibson and grab?
I prefer the wide receiver.
Okay. Let's go. I think that makes more sense. We'll grab Nico here. So from a Nico standpoint, I think that a young wide receiver who has shown progress, and even with, pretty much horrible putrid QB play last year, was still able to kind of show success. But I think more importantly is he's going to be a fixture in that offense. So like starting off, you're probably going to have him and Robert Woods in 2 wide receiver sets. We'll see on what John Mechie does. The reports are positive, but I think someone like John Mechie or someone like Tank Dell, like those are the ones who are going to spell Robert Woods from his role. Like I think Nico still is going to be that kind of primary, could be the alpha, if not is going to be like a core player in that offense. And then it's a bet on the offense as a whole. You've got new quarterback. You've got new just offensive scheme with that QB. So I like it. We're also getting the number 1 wide receiver at pick 140 for that offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't seem like you should be that cheap.
And there's other wide receivers I like in that range too. It's just a matter of like just taking whoever we think might not make it back to us first. So I like Collins there. For me, I really like Jalen Hyatt. I know that his profile is like wishy-washy, but for me, like I think he represents something kind of unique in the Giants offense where they kind of have the entire core made out of slot receivers, and Hyatt kind of represents a stretch the field type of guy that I think kind of separates from the other type of profiles there. Another guy that just went that I was considering too is Romeo Doubs, just kind of looking at the Packers losing Alan Lazard there, bringing in Jordan Love. I know there's a lot of mixed feelings on Jordan Love, but I'm kind of warming up to Doubs at ADP right there.
Yeah, well, there was that, I don't know if it was an actual report, I don't know if it was a beat, but thinking that Romeo Doubs may actually lead the team in receptions this year. I'm not buying that, but even that there's an idea of that, because I think like there's also just as likely a chance that he's not actually on the field for the majority of the time. Sure. That, you may have blanking right now, is it Jaden Reed?
Jaden Reed.
Jaden Reed back there playing in 2 wide sets with Christian Watson. Also wouldn't be shocking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a bit of a hot take to say Watson less receptions than Doubs, but I mean, if you're going to look at their profiles where he's so explosive, just like high efficiency, like sure, like I guess I wouldn't be surprised if you could guarantee me like equal snaps. Like, okay, yeah, like I could see it happen, but otherwise that's pretty bullish thinking.
Right. And I mean, Romeo Doubs, like not drafted high. A lot of it is just the rapport that he built with Rodgers in my mind. Like, yes, he was able to kind of show some success. Definitely in the preseason, he had that huge touchdown. And then in the first couple of games, he developed that kind of instant rapport with Rodgers. Now that it's going to be Jordan Love, is that gone? Do you maybe just devote more to the draft capital? I think this is an easy one here. Right at ADP, gives us a stack partner, and we just sort of take on why you like Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah. I'm into Jalen Hyatt, man.
Yeah, let's do it. I was going to say that this is kind of a fun range for us just in terms of like correlation patterns. Like you get a little week 17 with KJ Osborne, you get a little week 17 with Donovan Peoples-Jones. You get a little Chiefs thing going on with you take MVS, and Van Jefferson, a little week 17 thing for us there too. So it was kind of like I don't know if a win-win in terms of like talking about these names of wide receivers should exist, but it was kind of like pick your poison there. And I think picking the one that stacks with our quarterback just inevitably makes the most sense. And I mean, outlining that bull case for his ceiling there, Nez, I think absolutely.
We mentioned MVS with the Kelsey aspect, and I know we talked a little about the Chiefs, but in your thoughts, what are your general thoughts on like week 17 bringbacks without being a primary stack? Do you have a certain number that you're targeting? Is it 1? Is it 2? Are you willing to go even further? How's that kind of bake in?
Yeah, you guys, you want me? Okay.
You mentioned MVS.
Yeah. No. I think I think this year I'm going to get weirder than the field in terms of mini stacks that don't involve my quarterback. I think it might be a little path of edge right now where everyone is super hyper focused on if I have this quarterback, then I add this wide receiver. Maybe I add 2 and that deemed like quote unquote optimal to have 1 with 2 pass catchers. And then maybe they throw in 1 bring back or something. I think I'm going to get weird with like alpha pass catchers that everybody tries to tether to their quarterbacks with just like a mini 1-1 and the quarterback isn't the one you need necessarily.
Yeah. All right. We missed out on Irv Smith. Genius ended up taking him to go with
Ahead of ADP.
Oh, genius indeed. Oh, genius indeed.
Oh, my goodness.
But we got Tyler Higbee falling back to us, who actually, from like a ranking standpoint, I like more than Irv Smith.
I
And
love
that's
Higbee.
Bring back to our Giants. So I think that's an easy one.
I'm
Now-
really coming around on the Rams offense right now.
Talk to me about these 2 bye weeks. Does this make you upset? Does
Ooh.
it make you nervous? Are you okay with it? Does it excite you?
I think we have
Bring out
to.
the
I
good
think we
stuff.
have to be okay with it right now. We have to, especially with Kelsey. Right? If that Travis Kelsey was anybody else, I would not be okay with it. But
Explain.
granted, well, because with Kelsey, like Kelsey and Higbee being the same bye weeks, like we're banking on him like getting enough production that taking a 0 at a given week at tight end is like more stomachable because like Kelsey has earned us so much grace over the season. But if it was like Higbee and, let's just say for any other tight end, like Chig, for example, if we had those 2 and they happen to be the same bye week, now I'm feeling a little less comfortable because are those guys even going to do enough for me to be comfortable taking a 0 at a week whenever they could be giving me close to 0 50% of the time throughout the season anyways?
All right, so let's say it's Chig and Higbee. Let's pretend they have the same bye week. Or I guess, no, let's say they don't have the same bye week. You're okay with them, but when you have worse tight ends, what is your expected point total for a tight end on underdog scoring anyways?
Yeah.
Likely not high. But on top of that, though, I can also like give credence to like, okay, well, now that's an extra tight end for the playoffs, where now on top of that, like I can say that gives me some sort of uniqueness. Maybe this guy gets lucky, gets in the end zone during the playoffs. Would be like an added bonus to hopefully not taking a 0. But yeah, I see that. I'm more comfortable taking 3 tight ends than most, I think, but not with Kelsey.
Yeah, agreed. Anyone else thoughts on over the bye week conversation? Tight ends, QBs, elsewhere.
I think it plays to your point that we were talking earlier, like almost like the tight end like handcuff narrative and the 18 roster spots of just taking like the one-off and then that one-off being the piece you need with the tight end Kelsey. Like who the hell is going to pair 2 tight ends together that share the same bye week? Like that might be a path to uniqueness where you just sacrifice the 3.8 or 4.8 projected points in one isolated week, whatever 10 it was. And then, oh yeah, we have a path here.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Triple stack. Yeah.
Wandale, falling to us. We need more wide receiver, another stack partner. We're just going all in on this Giants Rams game.
Yeah. And just cap it at 3 there, Justin. Would you
3 wide? Yeah. For
Well,
Giants.
you said 3 pass. Yeah. For 3 Giants. Like, is that where you kind of draw the line?
I think probably. I mean, we are going to have 9 where we are gearing at that 9 wide receivers for this. So like week 18, if we've got no other choice and we're looking at wide receiver and we're like, you know what, Darius Slayton, let's do it. I'm fine with that. Like I think that I'm less inclined to focus on a cap of a number and more on draft capital. So if I'm spending a lot more early on, I maybe only want to go with 2 pass catchers, maybe 3. If I'm drafting a bunch of these guys later on, I'm okay with going 3, maybe even 4 or so.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, but we were talking about the tight ends. It's going to be hard to see in this structure because most of them, but let's hear because you can't see bye weeks. Okay. Someone talk about something. I'm going to look something up real quick.
Well, speaking of tight ends, I do have a question. Dalton Kincaid, is that like, are you taking Dalton Kincaid at ADP, Justin? Or you guys? No. Is anybody? Like,
I'm not taking any rookie tight ends at value.
That to me is like bonkers. I'm having a lot of trouble with that. In a vacuum, I want Knox over Kincaid, let alone at value. I'm just that's something that I'm like really struggling with, and I don't know if it's just like who's doing this. Like it clearly enough people are, because the ADP it does not lie. So
Liam drafts a lot.
That's what it is.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
I have my point from before. I will bring it up after this. We are back to be on the clock. We have our QBs. We have our tight ends. We probably want 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers with the remaining picks.
Mhm.
I'm going to flash the running backs real quick. You've got like a Devin, Singletary, Chuba, Tajay.
I think it's Singletary.
Okay. And
A
then
little
wide
tie-in.
receivers, we have Renfro, Rondale, Mecole.
Or Ron. Well, we do have.
We got Hopkins.
I think, like Rondale, because like that's still a bet that the Cardinals are better than people think if you do Rondale. But for me, I think Singletary
Yeah, I think Singletary too.
with the Nico Collins bet, just saying like, hey, the Texans offense outperforms projections, and now we have Singletary in there. Could be more 50-50 than people expect. I don't really have a strong lean on that backfield, but I do like Singletary as like in a build like this where like we're just kind of desperate a little bit, or looking for like an RB4. I think he's fine.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. There's a chance we can also get Tajay here, and now you're getting that week 17, or the week 15, week 17 double there.
Oh yeah.
Okay, my point from earlier, what I was bringing up with the buys, and I mean, John, you were directly saying like, what idiot is going to be drafting 2 tight ends with the same bye week like we just did? I think I love the idea of like, okay, getting unique with your tight end combo, but I think even more unique is going to be Travis Kelsey, Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, and Waller. So Kelsey and Goddard are both by week 10. Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, and Darren Waller are by week 13. Those are elite guys that are not going, no one's drafting Kelsey and like, I now want to spend on Goddard. No one's drafting Andrews and then immediately going Hawkinson right after.
Yeah.
So I think those are types where it's like, hey, now you're taking bully tight end into BBM's, BBM structure. We're doing it with this dual bye week. That means you're now going to be able to get very unique with this combo. If that team advances and you get both those tight ends either in 1 week or ping-ponging back and forth with big weeks, I think that's a level of uniqueness that I do want to target.
That's fun.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
Because you can flex one of them too. It's not like a dead roster spot. Those guys can very well be starting for you at the same time more often than not in the season.
Right. And I'm doing those on 0 RB teams because I'm not, if I'm taking 2 luxury picks early on, that means I'm missing out on wide receivers. I usually then want to say, okay, if I'm going this, I don't want to be playing catch up with the wide receivers. Give me the elite wide receivers. And that's going to be one of my 0 RB teams.
Yeah.
That's fun. I like that. The one we talked about from the daily streets this year is just the value of touchdowns, right? The value of touchdowns and the positional scarcity of tight end in the daily streets. When you flip the narrative, like when we start getting to those contests, every single week, Travis Kelsey is going to be in the 101 conversation. Mark Andrews is going to be in the 101 conversation. So why would we all of a sudden just be like, hey, let's not make those builds in BBM, right? Yeah. Like we were looking at the value of those guys. Absolutely.
Yeah, nope. I think that's completely fair. All right, we are coming back around. Again, we are likely looking at 1 running back and 2 wide receivers. Curtis Samuel, you could argue, is a tier above the rest of the wide receivers. I do think that's probably accurate, so I'm at least going to put him there to begin with. He's not any form of a stack with us. No Washington, no San Francisco. Carolina, Jacksonville, we've got nothing. Philly, Arizona, we've also maybe.
Yeah, we with Hopkins maybe. Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with either him or Gainwell here. I know that ETR likes Gainwell, specifically Silva likes Gainwell more than the field right now. So that gives me some promise in terms of him. There's another wide receiver that I was thinking about later that I kind of like as like a 17-18 pick here is Tim Patrick.
Okay, talk through.
I mean, I saw him sitting courtside with Russell Wilson. That gives me a little promise. I don't see Cortland Sutton sitting courtside with Russell Wilson. I see Tim Patrick sitting there. I don't know. He's just kind of like been in like a little bit of like a late bloomer darling bet for a couple seasons now and hasn't fully kept it healthy. And now we're getting a nice little discount. We get some good correlation with it. It just kind of seems like a fun late round bet there.
So I think Tim Patrick's probably one of my highest owned late wide receivers, particularly when I'm not stacking. I wouldn't say he's one of my highest owned in general because I don't have that much Russ. Decent amount of Herbert, and I grabbed that a bunch and bring back. But for me, so he signed a contract, I think it was 2 years ago. It was guaranteed like something like $18 million. Like it was legit wide receiver money. Then they draft Marvin Mims. Now, yes, like, okay, so maybe there's some risk there, but maybe that also tells us that Courtland Sutton issue is a larger issue with the knee. Like we know there's been the rumors about maybe wanting to trade. They picked up the Judy 5th-year options. They probably like him, but I could see a very real devoted a lot of capital. Marvin Mims could be Jalen Tolbert 2.0, or Courtland Sutton could be out the door or not fully healthy. Like there is no other wide receiver. I don't think there's other player that is on the same level of contract and guaranteed money getting drafted as late as Tim Patrick is.
Yeah, I like that. That we've talked about that hashtag follow the money a couple times before on our stream, where it's just like, man, these guys think they're good football players. They pay them like they're good football players. Yeah, we should probably listen to them doing that.
All right, I've got Slayton queued up here for the correlation aspect. We do theoretically want another running back. Is this where you jump on a Kareem Hunt kind of closing ADP?
I do. That's what I've been doing. I really like these guys don't like it. I like it, but
I'm scared of it, but
take the stack then. Take the Slayton stack, and then we can talk through the running back stuff after then.
I like that. I like that.
Slayton fits the team here, but I've been a proponent of, I mean, I'm also the idiot who chased Will Fuller for 2 seasons too long. So take it with the old caveat, the grain of salt there. But I've been a proponent of when I get Zeke, Hunt, or Lenny Fournette to fall in the 16 through 18 range, I've kind of been throwing darts there.
Okay. I'm right now just going through, looking at some kind of week 17 correlation that we have, thinking through. So the Hunt we were just talking about, we don't know where he ends up. McBride, we got AJ Dillon. It's minor. From our main stacks, you could maybe go with like Kieran Williams or Zach Evans. I don't really trust any of the Rams backfield. Like, I mean, I guess not trust, but I don't really have much even confidence. That's a sticky one. Is there anything you feel good about from the Rams backfield other than Akers?
I know Nez loves.
I don't love Zach Evans. I like Zach Evans.
Okay.
I'm into Zach Evans a little bit. He was my one of the featured backs of my crazy 8 that I did in the puppy with John. I ultimately though the Rams kind of feel like if anything happens to Akers, I think they bring somebody off the street. I think.
Can you explain what you mean by a featured back? Because
one of my featured backs.
Featured in.
Yeah, not a featured back. Yeah. I have a very loose description of how we do that. We're very flexible over here at Badge Bros Enterprises. We we throw things around like that. Well, there goes Hunt. You brought up the Vikings running backs. Are you, Justin, personally like buying that like Dalvin Cook is not going to be wearing purple when the season starts?
Yeah, we've been on that for I think a month or so.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite out of Ty Chandler and Dwayne McBride? Because this seems to be like a hot button issue.
Pre-draft, I was on McBride. And I think the challenge is like not catching passes, but like one of the best runners. Then Silva comes up and says like, hey, I got Ty Chandler in my top 150. I think Ty Chandler is going to be like the pairing back with Madison.
Because I want one of those two.
And I'm letting it fall on Chandler. I'm on Team Chandler. Cool. Letting Silva kind of drive my thoughts there. And it is true. So after McBride went in 6th round, it's not that I then moved over to Chandler because I don't even know who Ty Chandler was at the time. But I stopped drafting McBride because 6th round, not that great. Very possible they still bring in one of those 3 dusty running backs as well. So I'm still a little hesitant around it. But Silva's very bullish. And so I haven't been drafting that much of either of them in the BBM structure because we're going to have so much more information around these backs come August. And what are you giving up? Like if we knew that Madison is the starter, Madison's the starter, Dalvin's gone, they don't bring in another one, and we see that Ty Chandler is most likely the backup. Maybe he jumps to like the 15th round, 16th round. like you're not getting substantial value versus taking him now. So for the most part, I'd rather just not draft one of these potential backup running backs.
Yeah. I think you would need like a lot of coach speak to say like, hey, we like Ty Chandler, or even Dwayne McBride. And then maybe like first preseason game, like one of the other starts and the other one doesn't dress. And then it's just like wheels up on being the RB2, the immediate backup to Madison, who's never had a full workload to himself. Like, I think there's potential for like extreme steam. It's just like very cloudy as far as who could get that.
And because of the way that they changed, when you can actually do cuts, you can carry 90 people now later into the preseason, pretty much through all the games. Like, we're not actually going to have that much information because, yes, one sits and one plays, but what does that really tell us? Josh Jacobs last year.
Yep.
Like, we really don't know until they actually start making cuts, and we're not going to know that this year until the very end of the preseason. I think it's either the very end or the week before the very end. Like, it's very late this year.
There's two really nice.
Intern Numi, I need you to review our draft. Let us know how we did.
Goodness.
I'm going to put up the corporate valuations because that is what we're doing right now. We are doing the board valuations for this team. How do we do?
It's a little different structure than I normally would have done. The Burrow pick, I know he was sitting there past ADP, but I felt like it was a detour wide receiver that I wouldn't have personally made just because. But I mean, I like the Nez speak of drafting and making yourself uncomfortable. It's just when it's at wide receiver. It's tough, but I think we made up pretty good ground with the wide receiver and the squad that we ended up doing. I enjoy the Giants kind of mega stack that we ended up doing. And then like you said right away, like you can never say anything bad about Travis Kelsey. I have a lot of Travis Kelsey, so just him anchoring down that tight end spot. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good squad, especially with that 5 RB build. I think taking that AJ Dillon value and not pressing another wide receiver was another good spot that we kind of nailed there too. So for how we drafted and how the board fell, I think it's pretty good. Like I don't know, like I would give it an 8.5 out of 10 for what we did.
Ooh,
That's not bad. That's not bad. That's generous. But hey, first time in a boardroom, I think it's good for the intern to be generous. Your bosses are gonna like
That's
that.
right.
I have to. Exactly. I gotta lean on the high side, right?
Looking back on this, one thing I'll say is like I don't think we could have started the first 3 rounds much differently. Like when we went Kelsey, yes, we could have gone Mahomes here, but we still would have grabbed a running back here. Like the gap between running backs and wide receivers for where we drafted these two. And then still, I think I'm still drafting Kelsey there. So it then becomes hey, if we didn't draft a wide receiver in the first 3, how do we make up for that? Yeah, you might be right with that Higgins one. It was a round of value, but maybe we should have just said, we can't do it. We really got to keep going on wide receivers, given what our team needed. I think that was probably the most difficult question of this draft.
Yeah.
Whew. All right, this was fun. Any other topics we want to talk on? Any other things that's going on in your minds? Let me get some promos as well for you guys in the Badge Bros.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we do the promo thing, I wanted to hit on the bet stuff that you set up because on our stream I was quite complimentary that you did it because I think we've been a little bit spoiled with the first couple BBMs that known good players who we thought were smart and sharp in these actually realized their equity and won the damn thing. Right. I think that's kind of an outlier in it's a historical anomaly, not to discredit anything about you guys winning. Right. You guys are all very talented players and whatnot. But if we ever had a succession of 3 in a row where people who were streaming and whatever won 3 in a row, I think it would be, outliers upon outliers. Right. So with your bet, it kind of made a lot of sense to me to be like, hey, look, I'm good at this game. I'm good in these streets, but I'm going to spend all this time doing this, but I need another path to realize my equity just because I may not realize it through winnings of the contest, even if I play well. So I just love to pick your brain if that was kind of your thought process going into it, the structure of it, like what was your kind of mindset with setting it up to begin with?
Yeah, I think it's fully fair. And so I've had some conversations as well with some people in the industry and someone talking about hey, I want to stake you and such. And was curious, hey, how much money am I putting down on best ball each year? And way back in the day in the draft days, was getting like low six figures was because of going so many of those 3-mans. And I remember, John, you were there back in the day too. But it was like so easy to get high volume at 3-mans. When now the structure is more around like, I'm not playing cash games. There's not nearly the level of 3-man action or I think edge anymore. So I'm probably only going to get down like 20 to 30,000 in the various best ball tournaments. And so this was an opportunity for, as you said, for me to kind of make a bet and realize more edge, right? So the bet is $50,000 heads up bet, me versus Dan Zach. Dan Zach won the 2022 World Series of Poker Player of the Year, extremely sharp guy who's also into best ball. I put this out as a theoretical to begin with, just saying like, hey, I heard that, I've seen that a lot of these kind of top poker pros have been doing heads up bets where they'll literally sit for weeks on end playing heads up. They call it heads up for rolls. And it's a way to kind of realize what you're perceived or what you believe you have to, an edge value, and doing it in a kind of macho, man-to-man style. And so for this, I was like, hey, if I can now, by not playing anymore, not devoting any more time, but just doing what I'm already doing, but now putting another $50,000 on the line against someone that I really do respect and think has a lot of, great thoughts around this game, I want to do it. And so the next step was figuring out how do we do it in the right structure? Because what we really didn't want to do is change the way we are approaching a tournament to just for this bet. And there was a lot of risk of that because if you only count advance rate, well, then we're only going to be focusing on advance rate and not week 17. Or one of the ways that we actually got close to doing it and almost finalized it was just going to be whoever has a higher ROI will win a portion of the bet. The other portion was with advance rate. I realized that actually was going to lead to me optimizing week 16 because even with 150 tournaments, only 9% are making it to week 17. So before that bet, all that really would have mattered is if one of us made it to week 17, you were probably beating the other. And that's not what we wanted to optimize for either. So we ended up changing it to be a third of it, which is the same portion of the BBM prize pool is based off advance rate. And the other 2/3 is based off a proportional amount of what your winnings are. So if one of us destroys the other in ROI, then you get a larger percentage of that stake of the bet. If someone beats someone by like literally $1 per lineup, then you're going to see very similar returns on that side of things.
Yeah, I think that's a really sharp structure for it because I think when I originally saw it, that makes a lot more sense to me now. Because when I originally saw it, I was kind of like, why don't they just make an ROI bet? But that really does change how you would optimize when you said like the week 16 narrative. That would really would turn a week 17 contest into a week 16 contest, and you'd be optimizing for beating the bet, not for the other thing. That's very cool. I think it's so good for the industry just in general to have this sort of thing. And it's not like bad will or combative in like you think he's bad or anything like that. I just think it's so good for the community to be like, hey, now we can all follow along these two sharps battling it out, right? Because I'm going to be vested in it just as a bystander. I think it's a lot of fun.
And he was on Liam's stream last year. He talked about some simulations that he's been running for best ball as well. So I know that he's sharp, and I think he's approaching it from a different angle than us in the best ball group, the football group, are actually approaching it, which I think makes it that much interesting because he's approaching it from the poker world, which has gotten so GTO, so simulated, that I think that like, hey, he may have an edge. If he does have an edge, it is literally on something that I have no purview into right now, which I think is really interesting. He's going to be at the World Series of Poker again, trying to go back-to-back from June through half of July. But I think we're going to try to get him on one of these streams as well, either end of July or August as well, because as you said, not combative at all. Much respect, I think, across the table for us. Will be great to get him on and kind of just talk through and hear as much as he's willing to say as well.
That's great, man. That's awesome.
Okay, now, Badge Bros, other than obviously tweeting, obviously streaming, Discord, everything, let the people know, where can they find you if they don't already know? What do you guys got going on the rest of the summer?
Yeah, so tomorrow, just like we are every Tuesday and Thursday, we're over on the Underdog Fantasy Network YouTube channel, where we're going to be doing some baseball content, talking evergreen stuff, talking daily slates. Definitely check us out there. Got some nice insight, I think, for daily underdog drafters over there. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're over on the Badge Bros YouTube channel, talking whatever sport is on that day and doing a lot of BBM drafts over there. and some good EV over there because I'm usually testing out some best ball theories like single QB and single tight end. So get in those rooms with me, and chances are you'll realize some equity pretty easily.
I love it. Also, you guys, I know the Badge Bros is the main Twitter account, so follow that. Maybe if you guys could put out a tweet with all three of your individual ones so people can find you all as well. I know you guys are always talking about things on Twitter there. This has been fantastic, gentlemen. Badge Bros, thank you very much for joining us. Everyone in chat, you were great. It was fun draft with a lot of you. Hit that like, subscribe, leave a comment, shoot me a message on Twitter if you ever want to review your draft that we're on together on stream, because these always run long. We don't want to make we got Zoom meetings to go to. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Have a great week. Bye.